Hey, fuck it. Let's keep it short and sweet.
Yeah, let's do the thing.
If it's working out. Then as long as it takes. But like if you do sense some awkwardness or something, then
Hey man, it makes it all natural. All
it's
right, let's see if this thing goes. I'm gonna time this. It's 9:13 right now. What's up, party people? My name is the Buckness, and we out here with Animus, and fucking, we're just kind of shooting this shit, dude. Talking sounds and gear and acoustics and speakers and software and all the crazy shit, man, that we love doing. So, um, we just figured, you know what, we were gonna chat anyway, dude. He was just telling me about some shit that he got, and I wanted to record it. I'm like, hey man, let's record it and share it with the people. So we're back here doing this thing, and we're doing it live in full effect for the peoples. So, what's going on, man? What you got going on? Fucking, what kind of things that you did you want to show? You mentioned you got Sonarworks going on over there, right? And so you just
yeah,
briefly showed me that, but I'm probably gonna have tons of questions when you bust that out.
absolutely. Yeah, I just picked up Sonarworks. They had a Black Friday deal, so of course I had to pick that up. Something I've always been curious about, and I just decided to pick it up and give it a shot. I'm running some Focal solos with the Yamaha subwoofer, and for the most part, they sound incredible. They really sound great. I'm happy with them, but yeah, there was just some room issues that I was dealing with, mainly with the low end, of course, right? Because that's what we all more or less deal with, and it was something I've kind of gone around and I'm used to kind of dealing with it and working with it, but I definitely wanted to see if see what the hype was about.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean, long story short, it's phenomenal. I think it's great. I think anybody who is in a small place, in a place where maybe they don't have the best sized room or treatment or speakers or whatever your case may be, this is a step in the right direction for you to at least control exactly the response of your speakers in relationship to the room, so that you have a better, more accurate representation of what's really
Right. Yeah, I mean, fuck. That's the main thing I'm hearing, man. Small rooms, lightly treated, and nowadays, I mean, like most people can probably get access to panels and stuff at the very least. But dealing with corners is a whole nother ball game, especially if you're trying to stuff panels in corners. I mean, I know your space is pretty treated all around the spot, and you do have things treated in corners too, right, and stuff. And yeah, especially with small rooms. I mean, both of us are in small rooms. You're in like a 10 by 10 or something like that, right?
10 by 12, but
Woo! Yeah, yeah. Well,
just shy of
perfect square would have sucked.
yeah, that's like the ultimate sin, right?
Oh yeah, I mean mine's a 9 by 13, so it's really not far off, man. And I even actually still have Roomy Q Wizard on the side right now, and I'm gonna pull up those measurements in a sec, dude. But I want to see the deal again, man. Show me what you had, dude. Those measurements were fucking interesting and actually not too bad looking based on the size rooms that we're both in.
Absolutely.
And you're running a sub too, aren't you?
I am.
What do you have as the mains right now?
I have the solo folk house solo B6.
Uh huh.
Let me share with you guys my screen, right? Welcome to this project, which we will tell you a little bit more about this a little further down the video.
Yeah, buddy.
But for now, this is what's going on in my room, guys. So, with my speakers set up the way they were before, post treatment, I do have some treatment. Like the Buckness was saying, I've taken care of my first reflection points on both sides of my speaker, behind my speakers, and behind me, the listening position. You could see there's some quadratic diffusion back there. But this is kind of where I got it with just the speaker setup and the acoustics that I've been dealing with, as of late. So you can see you've got two lines. One's a left side, one's a right side. One runs a little bit louder on the top end, and it's probably because there's a window there, I'd imagine. Um, that's the only reason I could think that that might be a little bit
Like a
louder.
glass window? You have a glass window in there.
It's a glass window.
Gotcha.
I have it covered up. There's a panel there, but I'm sure it's still introducing. Reflections are like It's like water, you know, like they find their way, find a crack, it's gonna come out of there,
Right.
introduce itself somehow.
Uh-huh.
Nothing major. So essentially, what you do with Sonarworks is it comes with this mic, and let me show you guys the mic here.
Probably have to unshare real fast.
Yeah, let's do that. All right. So right here is the mic. It's a very simple mic. It's not much to it, you know. And with these particular mics, you don't want, you know, you want something very simple and just flat. And that's exactly what they did. It's exactly what they provided us with here. So what you do is, let's share this again. Essentially, you grab the mic and it runs a series of sweeps around the room. And the software, which is let's see, what's it called? Where is it called? I think it's called System Wide. It gives you a step-by-step guide to where you need to move your mic while you're doing the
So is
calibration.
it at multiple points in the room then?
It's over 30 points in the room.
Really? Woo!
So it's kind of ridiculous. You're just walking around the room while it's doing sweeps, and you're just kind of like being a nerd, you know, beep, 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 beep,
Uh-huh.
beep. Like it's just running sweeps. But essentially, that's how we got these measurements that we have here. And what this does is it creates an EQ specifically for this room to fix, for example, this dip right here and the lows here around like, what is that? Maybe 70, 60 hertz is a big dip, right? And then you've got like a I have a desk right here, so this is kind of typical of a boost around like 250 that you'd see if you have a desk or like a console in front of you. And you know, my highs are they're pretty solid. They're relatively flat, a little soft past 10K, but you know, I kind of enjoy that with these focals. So this is the before. Now I'm gonna show you the correction. So this is the correction. What you see here, this green line is the EQ that Sonarworks is applying to flatten out the response. So as you can see here, you've got the roll off, kind of like bumps it up a bit at the very, very low sub frequencies. And then here around the punch, which I was missing a lot of these, this kind of you know, slightly below 100. I was really missing that. There's a big hole there, and it just kind of gave it a boost, tamed the reflections on my desk, and did its work on the top end here. And the simulated after looks like this, just like magic.
That's wild. Even with that 6 dB kind of increment on the graph, it's like um yeah, I mean, it even only shows. So, you know, and that's what I saw at first. That compensation, the simulated after, it almost looked like it was aiming. It was like boosting below like 30 hertz and 20 hertz. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of energy to be pushing down a 6.5 inch speaker. But then the simulated after looks like it is actually cutting off at what is that 190, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40. There, okay, that is sub 30 hertz, right? That first line, that first vertical line is 30, right? 90,
Yeah,
80, 70.
yeah. 20 is the far left.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, Durka.
I mean, I can
Yeah, that's kind of good. That's actually nice that it considers safety of the transducers there.
absolutely.
Damn. So, do you notice that maybe some of the low end is also kind of appearing more in your room and stuff like that?
Absolutely. That main dip that got corrected there, I heard it immediately. Like it's funny because the room was sounding pretty darn good without this correction software. But once that was reintroduced, I realized how much was missing there, and it does make the room sound a lot bassier. But it's translating better, so I'm not too worried about it. It is a little bassier than I'm used to. It could possibly be, you know, because the pressure in the room, but it's translating really well. So I mean, it sounds louder, but it's a lot clearer and more articulate, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Hmm.
Now, have you ever done like a signal generator and played some of those dips in the room and like walked around the room and found out where they are? Because that's what I was trying to do for mine, and I'll show mine in a little bit of some recent. Rearrange some panels and stuff like that. But I would like play tone generators of the dipped areas and stand around the room and be like, "Oh my god, it's like so freaking prevalent right here." And then that's kind of why I had rearranged some things, and I'm still getting an odd dip, So it really goes to show that like the shape of the room, you just can't escape that sometimes. And I mean, yes, sure, I totally believe it that there are highly trained professionals that, I mean, they do this for a living, that tame those kinds of dips and peaks, from speaker placement to boundary reflections like tables. I mean, the table is like your first tables inside walls, right? Of course, and then your ceiling. I mean, all of everything, all the above is playing a huge part in that. And I've even seen videos of like guys on like GIK and stuff like that. They're like, oh, here's before and here's after with some placement and some treatment. I'm like, holy crap, man, that's amazing stuff that they're doing. So like, and even dudes that are making Sonarworks like this, man, it's like fucking, it makes your sitting position, of course. Well, obviously, it's gonna make it that much more improved and stuff, and it's cutting some other frequencies too. So it's not completely additive pressure that it's putting on your speakers and stuff. Yet it's probably, I mean, yeah, it's lower energy frequencies, but it's not all boost. And that's
Yeah,
at least what I'm seeing with this graph and stuff like that. So,
right, absolutely. Especially right here in this low mid
uh
range,
huh.
it's definitely reducing. Let me see. Let me get some of these other lines out of here. It's definitely reducing some of the pressure here. But this is the area that probably has the most subtractive EQ. A little bit right here in the high mid, but
Uh
for the
huh.
most, and this is a very critical part here as well, for listening experience, and as well as um just what was I gonna how I gonna say it, I don't know, like the boominess of your system. Sometimes it could sound a little boxy.
Yeah.
That's why we know, especially like in hard dance, this is an area sometimes we tend to.
It's crucial in some of the hard kicks, man, for real. And sometimes, I mean, that area can differentiate, if can even differentiate mud. You don't have to have crappy sub frequencies to create mud too, And at least that's what I'm like figuring out along the way and stuff. And um, yeah, that's totally cool. Even with the sub, that's actually a pretty good looking response that you have in terms of the treatment. And
Thank
that
you.
looks cool, man, for sure.
Let me just show you guys a little bit more of some of the features here. So right here you have a dry and wet knob.
Yeah.
So let's show you what that does. So as you move this wet knob down, it starts to reintroduce the original signal of your speakers. So like if I bring this all the way down to zero, it essentially goes back to what it initially was. 50% would be, somewhere in between, which that looks great to me too. Like that's something that anybody could work with, I'd say,
Right.
right? And at 100 you get this flat response, which I don't know exactly how accurate that is, but it's definitely sounds great. So I'm not really too worried about how ridiculously straight that looks, because that's almost like I wouldn't say impossible, but that's just kind of, it's a little exaggerated perhaps. But either way,
So you find that working at 100 is actually okay and stuff like that for your room, huh?
I've only been sitting with this for about a week now, and I'm
Right.
enjoying it. Things are translating, and I also really like the imaging. That's improved quite a bit. Just the overall portrait between your high end and low end, and just having like a really accurate balance of the two together has really helped kind of place things in the stereo field for me, and how I see them, um,
Hmm.
working on the music, and
Interesting.
that is incredible, especially for like game staging, or just mixing in general.
Mm-hmm.
That's so important. Just trying to get the depth in your mixes, and this allows you to do that by giving you a a, a proper ceiling and floor. for your
That
ear.
is, I don't even know why that the imaging, especially even the mids come to mind right away. You know, if the mids are getting really wide, especially in those lower mids, 100 to 200, then it just creates this wonky phase feeling, and that's a totally good point, especially with getting an actual response and what you mentioned. You know, a relatively more accurate stereo response basically, and that's just kick ass, man. I wanted to get this, but it's gonna be in sight in the future, man. I was a little skeptical. I'm like, I'm just gonna work in my room and just deal with it, get used to it, get used to referencing. But as I see this more and more and read about it more and more, and I've seen videos on it, and it's like it's super enticing. I'm sitting on the headphone version right now, and that's working well with the LCD X's, and I'll turn the plug-in completely off, and it's like, whoa, what the hell? And at least from that experience, it definitely tells me like where things are peaking and unnatural seeming. Is that kind of your experience with what you're hearing and stuff like that? Things become unnatural if they're out of whack in the mix.
Absolutely starts to sound a little strange. I, I've done the same with my headphones here.
Uh-huh.
Was I have the Bear Dynamic DT 880s,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't get them um, calibrated per se because you can send your particular headphone set to Sonarworks, and they run some tests and give you like a proper calibration.
It's
But
crazy.
they also have a list of frequency responses for pretty much every professional headphone you could buy on the market, and have done a correction for it. So
Yeah,
just decided, that's fine. Yeah, it definitely sounds better. So this was the response for the headphones.
right.
The headphones had a really weird uh, frequency response. It's just like this big old,
Beforehand, huh?
this top end is just like, it's it's what people call tinny.
Yeah, huh? I
It's
mean, I remember
definitely
using the 80s for those things are like legend for reference mixing, man. And for the price, you really cannot beat those for sure. In my own opinion, in my experience, I mean, if I were to get a secondary pair again, that would be the one to scoop and stuff. I'm
I,
letting my dad borrow the 6XXs, and I'm like end game right here with these right now. But
right.
I'm still thinking about scooping um
Another
another
pair.
set. Yeah.
It definitely filled up the low end. Like they were a little light on the base here, so you can see it starts to roll off at 100. So there's a lot of information missing there, especially making hard dance. Or I make psytrance now.
Uh-huh.
For those of you who don't know, by the way, my name's Animus. You can check out all of my music on SoundCloud, Facebook, or Instagram.
Yeah, buddy.
You should
Animus.
check it out, guys. But it's incredibly important to have that low end represented while you're creating music, so you know exactly what's going on. Because there's nothing worse than making something that you work so hard on just to go share it with people and it's not hitting right, you know. But yeah, and I mean to kind of wrap up what Sonarworks is doing here for me as well. You've got this safe headroom option where kind of brings down the output to a safe level, so you don't blow anything up, because you are reintroducing some frequencies, that are already being produced by the speaker, but
Right.
it's the room that's giving you the issue. So it's kind of boosting a little more sometimes on that low end, which could make that woofer work a little extra hard. So it's nice to have that to make sure you're running nice and safe. You got this mono selection here, which I don't, really use very much. I'd rather use it within the DAW itself. And if you didn't want to use this dry and wet knob here to play with your response here, you also have a bass boost, which can increase your low end, or you can dip it down, or tilt the top end, or the whole
That's super nice, man. That's
either
so
way.
coa That's
So
so cherry.
there's a lot of control, like if it's a little too different than what you're used to, then you can find a healthy medium where you're happy to work with and have better results.
Yeah, no kidding. Exactly right. And if you find that just happy medium in a good working space with that still having the effect of that flat response, and gosh, I'm still curious. You know what I mean? I wish I could give that extra input, but dude, this looks super enticing, man. Because, um, yeah, for sure, I'm definitely gonna try to see what's going on around Christmas time. But
Cough,
I
cough.
will I will quickly share. I think this meeting might end in 8 minutes and stuff. So just because I do not have the full legible legit version of Zoom, but anyhow, just wanted to shout that out really fast before we get wrap it up. But I mean, dude, that 6 dB cut already. That looks already super proper. I always want to share my room response real fast and kind of what I'm dealing with currently, as well as why I think I want to get that for sure. So I have where are you at, Room EQ Wizard? All right, let me just open up this here. Open up barefoot. So also in along with me using the barefoot footprint O2s, which are the 6.5-inch drivers. So I before I had moved things around, I had this nasty dip, and it's crazy in here, and it's like I can't escape it. With the Neumanns, I don't even think the Neumanns were this bad. But you know what? I've gotten so used to it already that it's like I just have referenced already back and forth. But then again, I still have to reference back and forth. So it's like before I was dealing with this and this, and then I finally had like moved things. I think I finally moved things around and ended up with something like that with like as large as this is 70 to 79. So there's like already a 10 dB cut, so seeing that 6 dB cut within like 20 you were at like something like 70 to 90. This is from 90 to 100 and 40 30 almost. That's 40 hertz of like information that's like, yeah, and I still have a couple of giant nulls here before 500 hertz and stuff. And I mean, that's already 5, 10, 15, almost 20 dB cut, you know what I mean? And sometimes when you're hitting certain notes, that information may be necessary, but I mean, the real chunk of change is happening right here. So I decided along the way to kind of get some paneling and move around and stuff like that. And I'm still getting the same dips. So I'm like, what's going on, man? And it just goes to show that the room is the nature of the beast and you can't escape it. So,
Although that looks much better.
it does. Along the way, I saw this fat deal on some ATC 20 SEM20 passives. So I ended up putting those in here for a week or two just because I wanted to take these out because I thought there was just too much bass in here. I was like, what am I doing? What's going on? These barefoots are super hi-fi, but really, you know what? It's just I'm just a human being with ears that still needs to work on his craft. So I ended up getting them, and this is kind of what that looks like. And I saw these same dips. So it's like, oh my, it just goes to show that your room response is your room response, and if you really, and sure you can tailor, fancy diffusion or what are those membrane bass absorbers that target specific frequencies, but I'm still getting that 95 to 120 hertz. And so, and this is already they naturally don't have much bass, but that mid-range information is just like all there. I mean, in fact, it's much more there than everything else. And um, I think even the same dips right here, so it does go with driver design and placement, obviously, because those are front-facing woofers. But then again, low-end frequencies do have a longer travel length. So those peaks and dips, I mean, those dips in particular are gonna be relatively the same. However, sure, it's only 5 dB, 6, 7, 8 right here as it gets lower, and it's interesting how it stays relatively flat around here. So something tells me it's this big 6-foot desk that I have in front of me, and thoughts have been kind of along the way to possibly um, get a smaller footprint on the desk. So, things, I mean, of course, I think before taking care of, physical room anomalies before actually going into treatment, going into software treatment might be my approach in the future, just because I'm really curious and this shit excites me. But I basically wanted to share that and see it's still the same thing. Big old cut right here. I mean, that's 40 hertz of information. That's crazy of, almost 10 dB. And yeah, sure, I may have gotten used to it, but it's not exactly like the ideal, because I've seen enough graphs and watched enough places and read enough forums to where it's like, yeah, You know, if you're playing around with 3 dB, you're probably in a good ballpark. And truthfully, I'm not inclined to disagree. So I'm curious on how that approach will be in the future. And yeah, man, I'm super stoked you actually took the time to do this, man. Thank you. I know you fucking working your butt off during the COVID times, man, and some of us are still trying to hustle on finding the whole new path, like myself. But you know what? We're still here. We're still standing. We're still doing the thing, and we're still loving audio fucking since day zero. So, um, before this meeting expires and wraps up, um, me and Animus do have a track that we're working on together, and we will be sharing that in the near future. It's just it's gonna be a hard style. Dude, it's got it going on, man. He showed me a sample already, and it sounds fucking wicked, and I'm super pumped for it. And your stuff already sounds super good already, and yeah. I just love talking acoustic shit with you, dude, all the time, man. I mean, the last time we were on the phone for like 2.5 hours, and it was crazy. Maybe sometime we'll both have to do like a studio tour sometime, because I don't think I've really, you know, maybe we'll have you do a video or something like that. I've probably posted tons of videos already of my setup and stuff like that. And, you know, I'm not trying to keep sharing that. I want to see what others got, you know what I mean, going on. Because I just like that shit, you know. I know Tommy is building his space, you know, and I've seen pictures and stuff like that. And I just love that kind of stuff. And I just love seeing people build and finding a passion for this and just enjoying the hell out of it and just fucking keep rocking the thing. So, dude, I think we do have probably about 1 minute left. So before this meeting ends, I just want to say thank you again, dude. This was awesome. And Animus, dude, you can check all this shit out: SoundCloud, Facebook, the whole nine. There's a Psytrance wizard right there. And as for myself, dude, the Buckness, y'all be seeing me very soon in the near future of yesterday. Peace, you guys. Have a good night.
Hey, everybody.